Hello, everyone. Welcome to Elevate Your Business, the show we dive deep into the world of business success, along with the tactics and best practices used to get there. I'm your host, Ed Jarecki, and I want to thank you for joining us today. Our goal for this show: empower business owners and entrepreneurs like yourselves by providing valuable insights and lessons from successful individuals who have traveled a similar path of business ownership and leadership. Our guest today is no exception. So sit back, relax, and let's give a warm welcome to our incredible guest speaker, Saurel Quettan. Saurel is the founder and CEO of ExecuFit, as well as president of QM3 Utility Services, along with being a deeply respected longtime business collaborator and dear friend. Saurel's forward thinking and vision are an outstanding complement to his personable and warm nature, which are all wrapped around a broad and deep understanding of business and what it takes to achieve success. As Saurel joins us on the show, he will elaborate on his definition of success and how it has evolved over time. In addition, he'll share one or two key experiences and the lessons learned from those. And we'll explore what innovation means in his business and how he leverages it to achieve success. So join me in welcoming Saurel Quettan as we embark on another incredible episode of Elevate Your Business. Saurel, it is absolutely wonderful to see you. How are you doing?
I am doing great, and it's so excited to be here. Certainly very excited to be with you in a conversation that I think we need to warn everyone that when we get together, give yourself the permission to go down any rabbit hole you choose, but certainly we'll stick to the promise you make to the audience and really create a conversation that leaves them wanting to come back. That's our intention. So thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. I know our relationship is a long relationship and it's a fairly deep relationship. And it has always been wrought with positive, visionary thinking and how do we get there? And then when we've worked together, we always make that happen. And I've, witnessed your experiences over time, and they've always just been absolutely incredible. Can you share a little bit more about your businesses and your journey?
Yeah, I'll share that, but this is my trademark. Wherever I go, before I share about the business, I share about where I'm from, because that tells people a lot, not just about me, but about the world inside of which I swim in. I am from Haiti. I left Haiti in 1977. I am from two parents. My dad, who was a seamstress, and both born entrepreneurs. And it seems as if that's the kind of thing that you do if you are a Haitian or you live in a country like Haiti, where unless you create your job, unless you create your enterprise, unless you create services and products to offer, well, you're unemployed. So I'm grateful for them. I inherited the entrepreneur's gene from them. I inherited the resilience and the love for the game of being an entrepreneur. So it wasn't out of line for me to, in 1999, strike out and go in business for myself. And since then, it's been not like a serial entrepreneur in the tech space, but a serial entrepreneur accumulating 2 to 3 businesses and running them as legacies for the family, legacies for my clients, and legacies for the community. So, as you mentioned, I currently am president of QM3 Utility Services. This company serves gas utilities. So I really haven't left the telecom engineering space, leveraging that knowledge as an engineer, that knowledge as someone who holds an MBA to serve a community of utilities in the Southeast with the inspection of their infrastructure for leaks and emissions. In other words, that company and our team exists to protect the public against the potential dangers of gas leaks. And, the thing is, I love serving the community. You know that already.
I do.
And since 1999, many, many years, there is that part of me that's just enamored with what makes a human being tick. In other words, whether you're in business or working in a corporation, what is it that drives success in throughout the spectrum of a career? And how can we harness the knowledge and practice of how human beings function to not only lead myself, but lead others? So an aspect of this conversation is shedding some light on what is it to be a human being and how do I use that practice to lead myself and lead others. So we hope to leave you with that. But my wife is a money woman. She's an accountant and has been the successful CEO of QM3 Utility Services since 2014. And she's always said this to me. She goes, Saurel, when it comes to the money conversation, I want you out. And if you know my heart for service, you'll know why. Because she goes, Saurel, I don't get it. You're always ready to give away the store just because it satisfies you to serve. So I respect that separation. And
would your wife help me out a little bit too?
I respect that separation. She has all the money conversations with our clients, and I do some magic, right? But at some point in time, back in November 2019, Ed, she said, you know, all that stuff you do for free all over Haiti and all over this community? What if you structured an enterprise around it and offered it to people? It's good stuff. So in 2019, ExecuFit was born out of that request, but not just that request, but my passion for the field. And, you know, I'm happy doing it. And Susan's really happy when it generates money. I mean, that's the best of both worlds.
You got it, 100%. And that's been a consistent theme throughout, my journey with you. And is that warm compassion, always trying to help, always trying to find a way, leadership, paramount in importance in everything that we do.
If we want to pause here and acknowledge that this is International Women's Month. And on the 8th, which is tomorrow, it's the day on which the world observes International Women's Day. This day is dedicated to acknowledge the inequalities that have existed for centuries, right? And so on this day, I honor Dawn, your wife. I choose to honor Susan, my wife, and I'm honoring women across the globe because it's my firm belief, Ed, that if all of us men, and I'll strike that out now and speak just myself, right? If I could only step aside and let the women of the world lead, we would have a more compassionate and more profitable place where everyone partakes in it and no one is left out. So I wanted to pause and honor that. So, there's this book written called All I've Ever Learned, I Learned in Kindergarten. I have a shift to that saying. My models for leadership come from the women in my life. Yeah.
Outstanding. Very cool.
All I've ever learned about leadership, I learned from my mom.
Well, that kind of leads us into the first question of success, and you've already kind of started to define that. But what is your definition of success today?
As we were discussing this, Ed, you mentioned how has the definition evolved, right? I was born into a world where my definition of success was based primarily on me comparing myself and my lot to people around me. And there were moments of fleeting glory and elation because when I compared myself to another, I was better. And there were moments of sheer desperation because when I compared myself to someone else, they were better. And I couldn't fathom how I would get there, right? So in that definition of success, I spent a lot of time proving to myself that I was good enough while doubting seriously that I ever would be. So that definition of success that is extrinsically based, anchored in comparison, anchored in my results and my achievements, while it drove me to achieve a lot. I've achieved a lot, Ed, and so have you, right? And so have many of the listeners. I've achieved what I've achieved in my education. I've achieved what I've achieved in business. I've achieved what I've achieved in terms of the relationships I have and all of that.
Yes.
And yet, when all of that is anchored in a world of comparisons, it leaves me disempowered. Now, thank God that definition has evolved. And I now make a clear distinction between achievements and what I call authentic success. Achievements are the goals I achieve. I may set a goal to get a car. I may set a goal to earn X amount of money in terms of revenue generated in my business. And by the way, Ed, I'm not knocking any of that. That is not wrong. And an empowering definition of success, though, that says, right now, success for me goes like this. Am I being someone who gets to say who I am? Am I being someone who has the courage to live as who I say I am? And if I haven't said who I am, and I find myself still living according to a definition of me given to me by someone, some set of circumstances, institutions outside of me, then part of me defining success, if that's all I do, is to now pause and take responsibility for saying who I am. And so for me, there is no success, no access to authentic success without me birthing myself that way.
Well, if our audience feels the same way, every time we talk, I sit there and go, those are great thoughts. How do that resonate with me? Where am I at with that? So you've wonderful, wonderful thoughts. But through that journey, there's definitely been challenges and lessons learned. What are one or two of those key challenges that you've had to work through?
Yeah, the challenge that I think is universal, Ed, and that business owners, presidents, stateswomen, statesmen, I mean, top leaders of the world, the biggest challenge is, even in the face of having said, this is me, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is my vision, this is my mission, these are my guiding principles that will coach me daily. I think the biggest challenge for me and for most people is the doubt that creeps in to have me think about changing who I say I am and compromising my own integrity to live as the world would see it. And that shows up in many ways, by the way. As you're thinking, you're saying, how does that resonate with me, right? Let it resonate this way. Look how often you may be second guessing yourself when it comes to making decisions. Look how often, when a risky proposition shows up, maybe you choose the less risky proposition, something that's more certain, even though the upside of the riskier proposition is what you really want. And look how often, in terms of team dynamics, you may say, if I need this done right, I think I need to do it myself. And also look and see how often in life are you sacrificing what really matters to you so you can stay at work 1 hour longer, 1 day longer, and you walk around, maybe even if secretively, wearing a badge of honor called I'm burning the candle at both ends. If any of that is happening, and a host of other normal behavior, you could say that at the root of it is what I'm calling the biggest challenge, which is self-doubt. If
Are
you
you,
raise the ante, you might call it imposter syndrome.
yes, I've actually had conversations just recently. Are you familiar with positive intelligence, the sage and the saboteur sides of the thinking,
Yeah,
the mind and the
in
thinking?
some way, I don't characterize it in those terms, but yeah,
But,
absolutely.
but what you said really resonates because self-doubt is one of those saboteurs.
Yeah,
And the guidance, I'm just finishing up my 7-week course on positive intelligence, but this all revolves around training our mind to focus on the positive. And when those saboteurs like self-doubt enter our mind, it's force those back and focus on the positive side of that, even if that means in those cases, Dr. Shazad probably not like me saying this, but there's a meditation aspect of it. There's a removing yourself, focusing on something positive, recentering, and then moving forward to eliminate that saboteur from permeating your mind to a point where it
mm,
creates indecision, it creates too much stress and anxiety, etc. So that when as
yeah,
soon as you said that, I was like, that's a saboteur, and you're right. That's a very common
yeah.
saboteur among people.
There's another angle that I want to offer our listeners. Think of this. Mostly when people hear me or you say saboteur or self-doubt or imposter syndrome, there's a little bit, if not a lot, of guilt and shame that creeps in. It's like, oh my God, I'm an educated entrepreneur. I'm an educated man or woman. I mean, me admit self-doubt, imposter syndrome. And what I've discovered across years and over 1,500 one-to-one conversations, Ed, is that there is a nature to what it is to be a human being. And to be a human being is to have self-doubt. And what what really sabotages authentic success is to deny that or to try to fix that. So one of the proposition is your humanity. Don't try to fix self-doubt, include it.
It's always going to be there.
It's
Absolutely.
always going to be
But it
there.
but it's what you do with it.
Yeah,
It's not allowing it to drive procrastination, drive making decisions too fast, taking action on the wrong direction, kind of to your point about the opportunities.
yeah,
So it's really about training your brain, training your mind to recognize it, deal with it, push it into its corner, and focusing on what do you do from a positive perspective, positive momentum. My family motto, keep moving
yeah.
forward.
Keep moving forward. And related to that, Ed, we talked earlier about having the courage to say who I am. The minute I do that, there's actually putting who I say I am in black and white. And for a lot of business owners, even though they may have a concept of that, putting it in black and white makes a huge difference.
Yes, writing it down.
Put your vision in black and white.
Yeah.
Write a compelling mission in black and white. Put down 3 to 5 guiding principles in black and white and review that piece of paper on a daily, weekly basis.
Right. Write
And here's
down the
yeah,
3 to 5 things that you're going to work on to deliver whatever you've written down to deliver that
exactly.
mission. Yes.
Right. And then the cool thing about what you were saying is when it comes to not letting the saboteur take over, I have a place to go. I don't have to do too much, but go to what I've written down. Go to the 2 or 3 things I said I want to accomplish that is consistent with that.
And it allows you to keep moving forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're not going to move forward in the direction that fulfills the future you say, unless you actually have it written down.
Right. You could keep moving
As
forward,
mundane
but
as that sounds,
forward towards what? Yeah.
pays to know where the future is when it's time for you to take actions consistent with that future.
Any lesson learned that you could pass along to our audience through that experience? So I hear the self, we got to push self down into the corner. I think there's a lesson within that. But
Mm-hmm.
anything else that comes to mind on what would you recommend for our viewers that are experiencing so
Yeah.
many of these same things?
The me with self-doubt, or anybody with self-doubt, seeks to cure self-doubt and does so on an island. Here's the key. And you could say that is a universal practice. Do not go it alone. So my lessons learned across the years, Ed, it has always been my community that has made the biggest difference for me, whether it's in my personal life or my business life. It has always been the community. And it's not the community in terms of what I can take from the community.
Great.
It is the community in terms of what I'm willing and seeking to give to the community.
Yeah.
And then watch magic happen.
Right. The fulfillment
The
of that is
community
absolutely
itself comes
incredible.
back and takes care of you.
Right. And it's so fulfilling, and
Yeah.
that can manifest itself in, positive feelings, positive momentum, including the support of that community towards whatever your goals and endeavors are.
Yeah. And that doesn't negate, Ed, my skills and my knowledge. As an engineer, I'm top notch. As a leadership coach, I can tell you I'm one of the world's best conference planners and facilitators. Put me in a room of 250 people who can't see their way out of a paper bag and I'll get them out, right? But that's not worth anything unless I'm in community. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson I learned over time is that while what I know is necessary for me to create deliverables, have conversations, what I already know, and take for granted regarding my relationships with clients and with others, what I already know is my biggest impediment. So the practice of entering a space, leaving at the door, my knowing
That makes sense.
opens the door for opportunities that I could never imagine.
It's always keeping that open, objective mind, right?
Yeah, like over and over, I kept finding that what I already knew and stuck to limited the opportunities. It forced me to get to the space where you and I reach a compromise. And man, that word, it used to be a good friend. It no longer is a friend. Compromises force me to be smaller. It forces you on the other side of the opportunity to be smaller.
Yep.
And if we're both to compromise, it also shrinks the opportunity. What if we didn't have to do it that way?
I agree.
Pretending I don't know deliberately as a practice forces and creates the space for a kind of curiosity that makes something beyond compromise possible.
This really is reinforced. I was in a class, I think it was last week, and it was a different version of brainstorming. And if you go back to the true underlying definition of what brainstorming is it's a brainstorm of ideas. Put every idea that you can think of on the table. No idea is a bad idea. There's no criticism associated with it. And there was one add to it that I really took to heart, and that is, even if you completely disagree with an idea, you can still find 10% of it that is good and focus on that. And that's how you build collaboration and come out with an optimum solution. No idea is a bad idea. Every idea at least has a kernel of positive. So don't put the idea down in totality. Focus on that positive kernel within it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And, Ed, what that brings to mind is in the context of and how that definition has evolved for me. Over time, I've also created some practices around that. And one of the practices I want to share is the practice of observing. Earlier we talked about team dynamics. I don't delegate, I do it myself. We talked about work-life balance. I'm burning the candle at both ends. Instead of creating a culture where leadership is distributed, I'm the leader. When I can observe myself and see the blatant or subtle evidence of that kind of behavior, I can automatically conclude for myself that self-doubt is somewhere in there lurking.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of doing something external, I do some introspection. And the minute I acknowledge myself, the source of the behavior, it disappears. There's room for something new. So that's the first practice. Observe. The second practice is this. If you've observed and something's not working or not working as well as you'd like it to, make the automatic assumption that you're trying to do it yourself. And by yourself, I don't mean something that's in your wheelhouse, something that, that's your talent and that's your happy place. No, it's things like you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to do your own accounting. You're an entrepreneur, you refuse to seek legal advice. You're an entrepreneur, you're doing your own IT stuff. If it's not yours, and if it doesn't have anything to do with attracting new clients, closing them, and serving, outsource it. And the thing that's challenging about that is that at the onset, it's really tough to do because you may not actually have the funds to support that. Do it anyway. Most business owners who are starting or even growing a business fall in the trap of trying to, pull themselves by their own bootstraps. It works. It makes you courageous. It builds big biceps, but it makes growth slow and incremental. Rapid growth is a team sport.
I agree. Very incredibly wise words. Let's shift the focus a little bit to all the changes occurring out there. And so the innovation, it's daily, it's got to be personalized. We got to come out with new products and services regularly. Biz tech, what I call it, AI, and some of these other things that are business enablement technologies are popping up all over, continuing to expand new solutions out there. As you've worked through your organization, and you've got two of them, how has innovation played a role, and how do you see it playing a role into the future?
Innovation is critical. Let's talk about what's not innovation, or maybe what is the impact of my refusal to innovate. The enemy of innovation is having a solution that works. It's like I have the solution. It works like a charm. Every time I do it, it delivers. And then I stick to it and I keep repeating it. We call it rinse and repeat. Why reinvent the wheel? Why fix what's not broken? But what that does very slowly, it leaves me, the business owner, in a world where my defined product tends to now be defining the client's need.
That's a great comment, great perspective.
So while having a great product or a great set of services that you can rinse and repeat makes you efficient, it keeps you stuck.
Yeah.
I cannot innovate if I think my product or my services are it. So innovation, whether it's in the space of technology products, marketing services, you name it, I'm willing to hang my hat on this one. I'm fond of saying, this is not the truth. But this time, I'm saying this is the truth, people. The key to innovation doesn't come from my head. It does not come from my knowledge and my brain power. It comes from me sitting face to face with a client, putting what I already know and what I already have aside and listening.
Yeah.
And with the willingness to deliver what's needed and wanted. And what's needed and wanted by the market, by your clients, is the source of innovation. While technology may offer something now that's different, I am of the mindset that innovation isn't just new technology.
Yeah,
And
the
that
technologies are the tools in the toolbox, right?
exactly, right? It's a tool in the toolbox. What is innovation is my application, my use of that tool in the service of my clients in a way that they want and need, that solves a problem they have that's not being solved yet, or
Well,
that's being solved and not being solved effectively.
right. And carrying that tool analogy a little bit further, it's having the right tool for the job too. So once you've listened and understood that, well, it's a little of this tool, a little of this tool, and I don't have a solution for this tool. So now I've got to go out and do some investigation. I've got a large community of experts and stuff like that, and can kind of feed, ideas, thoughts, directions to pursue based on going out to those colleagues, friends, networkers, et cetera, to get those type of insights.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that brings us to what I think severely limits innovation in any business. It is the thinking that says innovation has to do with something I invent, something that I'm smart enough to come up with. It's not that.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
You and I have been around the block a few times. Back in the 90s, it was very much that way. Today, innovation has to permeate every aspect of an organization. And there's got to be a mechanism to guide everybody down the path on the types of innovations, to provide the skills, the understanding, to be able to seek it out, understand it, learn how to apply it. But there's so much new demand every day that you have to find ways, people, process, technology within a culture of innovation that allows them to collaborate in such a way to continue to deliver towards that vision, mission, and goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The other aspect of innovation that I've experienced in my businesses, Ed, is this. It has been the case from a technology standpoint that technology evolves or thinking evolves, and then something miraculous, quasi-miraculous happens, and we call that innovation. It happens in leaps, right? And you could call that macro innovation. What I'm seeing in my business is that there's such a thing as micro.
Exactly.
That is really critical. So don't wait for the big bang.
Right.
Make a small tweak right there.
Right. The process isn't working.
Yeah.
How can it work better? Get the right people together and improve it.
Improve it. And you said the word improve. From the perspective of business process management, there is that improvement piece that matters. But when it comes to service delivery, that micro shift could be the micro shift that differentiates you from the market for a long time.
Right.
The
But
willingness to actually make that micro shift now is key to innovation.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are difficult cultures to develop and build, but once they're in place,
Yeah.
incredible. Incredibly fun environments too. I
Uh,
haven't got to experience many of them because I don't think there's a large population of them out there, but those that do exist, incredibly powerful cultures, and they usually stay on top of their game. Biggest challenge is maintaining that culture over time.
Well, that brings us to the simplicity of guiding principles, the routine nature of connecting with them emotionally that many organizations don't do enough
Yeah.
of.
Right.
So we talked earlier about putting it in black and white, right? That's just the beginning. What really makes company culture stick are the ritual that we engage in deliberately, frequently, at least weekly, to actually mouth out loud the vision of the organization, the mission of the organization, the core values and the guiding principles of the organization, and then to pause and look and say, how am I performing? How am I existing with respect to what I said?
Yeah.
And then wherever I'm not consistently acting and speaking, to make the corrections necessary. And if you wait longer than a week, the set of behaviors that anchor themselves become normal and you can no longer see. So it's essential to connect that way emotionally and to do it as a collective in the organization. And I say that now, Ed, because that's critical to innovation and growth.
So a defined, shared, regularly updated vision, and then the ongoing communication. So it's strategy, planning, and performance. Here's the vision. What are we doing about that? Longer term, shorter term, and what's our performance against delivering those capabilities, those projects, whatever it happens to be. It's a circle, it's a cycle. Vision shouldn't change very often. It's always that guiding, but the whole system of the organization has to work together. People, process, technology, in that collaboration, innovative culture in that type of an environment.
So I love the way you did this, right? Holistic view of the organization, coupled with a holistic view of the human beings we call team members.
Yes.
Yeah. And when those two are in sync, and my dream, Ed, is that you and I no longer get to say, oh, it's so rare when that happens.
We've always been on that hunt, haven't we?
I'm on a mission to have that be the norm. That while it's a great thing for an organization to boast that we are the best place to work on the planet, what if all of the places where people work are the best places to work?
Well, we're going to have some follow-up conversations because I think the world is going to be fundamentally changing. You think about the jobs that AI is going to take away. That really does give people the opportunity to reskill and develop in a manner that's aligned with their passions. And I think there's real opportunity to really create a society that is fulfilling in general. It is the macro. It is the desired place. It's fed and nurtured by the people. But there's a lot of obstacles to get to that point.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting journey to see how the artificial intelligence and some of these other capabilities, you got quantum computing that is now, it's a reality in very narrow fields, but they've actually made some advancements based on a few readings that in the next 5 years, we could start to see some commercialization and some of those capabilities in quantum compute and quantum net. And that's going to fundamentally change the world again. So you've got this continued advancement of artificial intelligence and all the pieces and parts to that. They'll start to connect and create a much more seamless world. What do we need to do? What's that mean? Our creativity and innovation doesn't go away. We get to put our minds towards, in some ways, it could be the fun stuff, right? Let the AI tools do all that accounting stuff and that other stuff we don't really want to do.
You're definitely right. We need to have a follow-on conversation, but when it comes to what you're talking about, AI, quantum computing, how that changes the landscape, both business and personal lives, right? I think there's a reckoning coming, and that reckoning deals with this. It's it's normal for us to assume, because that's the way it's always been, that wealth accumulates in pockets of the world where most of the innovation is happening and where the people, quote unquote, have the best work ethic. I believe AI, quantum computing, and that whole world that's unfolding is going to seriously challenge that to
I
the
agree.
extent to the extent that people who are smart, people who have the work ethic, are displaced. How do we account for that?
That is a $64 million question at this particular point in time. I read an article that was forwarded as part of my Future Loop subscription, and it talked about some of these changes. Yeah, if you think about some of the changes over 10 years from a worldwide perspective, the estimate was thrown out there that 300 million job families are going to be eliminated around the world within 10 years. And in the United States, 70% of the jobs that exist today will not exist 10 years from now. Now, nobody really knows what that means. And are those small changes or massive changes, or how much is small, how much is large? So there's a ton of questions. But that does really start to drive home the point that no matter what, the world is changing. And there is an opportunity within all that, as much as there's also some fear and trepidation for those changes that are coming down.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in passing, a really good book to connect to and read or listen to is a book entitled The Coming Wave. The Coming Wave is written by this Mustafa Suleiman, all about the world of AI from a historical standpoint, chronicling the waves of technology that massively changed and transformed the world, and AI and quantum computing, coupled with bioengineering, is this combined wave that's transforming everything.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got an interesting future in front of us from a humanity perspective, and probably even within, the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years of our respective journeys. It's going to be a very, very interesting journey. So embrace it with the thought of, success is how you live your every day of your life with and the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
So, final takeaway. What would be the final takeaway that you would offer our audience?
I'm offering and inviting people to be on a journey. It's a cyclical journey. It's not a journey with an end. It's a cyclical journey. It's a kind of journey that wherever you are in life, whatever's happening around you, in this moment, you can be fulfilled. The first phase in the journey, and those phases, though I'm about to say them sequentially, Ed, sometimes they're concurrent and you're iterating through two or three at the same time. That the first phase, I call it, who am I? That's the iterative self introspection that keeps me anchored so that my actions and my speaking are consistent with what I say my business exists. Mm-hmm. The second piece is tending to the integrity of the culture of the business. That's also cyclical, right? Because while my vision may remain the same, how the world is changing has to be taken into account. So the mission of the organization, the core values and guiding principles may need to shift. That has integrity. Me ignoring the world around me has no integrity whatsoever. And the third piece says, wow, if I've done the work and I've continued to do the work to stay connected emotionally to what I've created as who I say and what I say this organization exists to fulfill in the world, I must bring on a team to make it happen. I can't do it alone. And when the team gets together, then magic can happen, because teams that are aligned that way can create plans that they share and can give themselves the permission to hold each other accountable and to stay true to taking the actions they promise to take to fulfill a future that they create together.
And then going through your cycle again,
Go round and round.
right? The leader then becomes really the nurturer of that system. Outstanding. Well,
Yeah.
Saurel, it has been an absolute pleasure. We could probably go on for hours, as
Oh my God.
sometimes
You know, we've done
we
that
have in the
before,
past.
right? Love it. Love it.
So with that, everybody, thank you all for joining us today, and especially thank you to our incredible guest, Saurel Quettan, for sharing his incredible insights and experiences with us. We hope this conversation has left you inspired and motivated to embrace the challenges of entrepreneurship with resilience, innovation, and adaptability. Remember, success comes in many forms, and it's essential to define it for yourself. Take the lessons shared by Saurel to heart as you navigate your own entrepreneurial journey. Embrace change, seek out opportunities for growth, and always be willing to adapt to the ever-evolving landscape of business. Thank you once again to our incredible guest speaker, Saurel Quettan, for enlightening us with his wisdom, and thank you all for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you next time. Stay resilient, stay innovative, everybody.